Hello and welcome to Studio 5 going live at lunchtime. This is going to be a new one for me. Today what I thought I'd do is share with you a very simple way of making an applied M-band in leather. Leather being a little bit of a theme following on from yesterday. But first of all, what I'd like to start with is perhaps the origin, if you like, of the M-band. And what we've got here is a facsimile of a mid 14th to mid early 15th century student monastic binding. And we can see partially the origins of the M-band. If we look here, and I use the term M-band. I know some people say headbands, but there is a head and a tail, so I prefer to say M-bands. It seems logical for me. The M-band is this little bit row stitching here. I hope we can see that. And traditionally, and I know there will be some people sitting there, traditionalists, going, oh yes, this is the way to do it. Traditionally, the core of the M-band, in this particular case cord, would be laced into the board, and we can just see the return happening here, laced into the board. So the M-band was actually part of the physical construction and board attachment. Now, board attachment is something we're going to be looking at this afternoon. And we can actually see the original sewing here and how the cord has been laced into the board, held in place with wooden pegs, and again, that's a very traditional way of working. We've got quarter cut oak boards there. So that's the origins of it. And unfortunately nowadays I think we're all very, very familiar with the M-bands that we see every day on the heads and tails of books, which is this stuff, which is woven M-banding material, which is, you know, you buy by the mile. And it's very useful for certain styles and certain elements and certain budgets of work. Anyway, that can go over there. Now, however, of course, we still do sew our M-bands, and I hope we can see this as well. We can just see our sewn M-band just here. And again, that's both at the head and, of course, at the tail. And we can see from this, if I open this up, that the M-band cord just finishes there. It doesn't physically lace into the board. So this is the, if you like, the next step on from laced on board M-bands. Nice thing about sewn M-bands, before we go any further, is, and if I just show you this particular book here, is that we've got a, this is from the DeWill collection, which I've had on loan for a little while now, because I was giving a sort of a summer show and I wanted to show this particular work. We can just see the M-band here. And can you see we've got all these different colours in the M-band, which actually reflect what's happening on the outside of the book and, of course, what's happening on the doublure and end paper. So that in actual fact, you can use the M-band not just as a part of the construction, which helps to support the head and the tail of the spine, but it can also be used in a decorative way as well. Now we're going to be making something that's a little bit of a halfway house. It is an applied M-band, but we're going to be making it from leather. Now leather is a great material, and we've got a lovely little piece here, and this is from Harmatan Leather UK. Though of course there are other tanneries and other suppliers available, but those are the people I tend to use. And it's got a beautiful natural grain to it. And one of the things when we are using leather, we have to respect it. We have to respect how it's been made, how it's got to us, and of course that it was at one time a living animal. And so, you know, again, another reason why I use Harmatan is because they do, you know, sort of do things responsibly. Now, the leather has been thinned to about 0.3 of a millimetre. It's just in between. That's okay. That'll do me fine. And if you haven't got a micrometer, very useful things to have, by the way, what you can do, of course, is you can hold it up to the light, and if you can see through the hair follicles, that's about right. That's about a good thickness to have. Word of advice, of course, if you start to see larger holes, like that one there, you've gone too far. Stop. Stand back from whatever you were doing, have a cup of coffee, and start again. Okay? Just a word of advice there. So, I'm going to start. I'm going to get my piece of glass out, funnily enough saved over from yesterday, and basically what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be laying my leather down onto the glass, applying my adhesive to 2/3 of this area here, and then laying a core down into the center and wrapping the leather around the core. Now, a word about cores. This is some leather thonging, very, very flexible, which I bought from one of those, you know, sort of hippie-ish, though there are other groups and movements around, sort of bead shops, and they come in a variety of different colors and different thicknesses as well, so you know they can suit all jobs. If you can't get hold of that, just some leather thonging, offcuts of leather. Traditionally, one would laminate strips of leather and vellum together to make things a little stiffer, perhaps. I've even known people use thinned down strips of bamboo, fishing line, all sorts of things to do this particular job with. So, without further ado, oh yes, another little point. When you're making your M-band, always make twice as much as you think you're going to need, just in case it all goes wrong, or you know you think, well, that bit's better than the other. So that's what we're going to be doing. Now the adhesive I'm going to be using is a mixture of a paste, pre-mixed, why not? I haven't got 4 hours to waste making it all in the morning, and some PVA. And I'm going to be making a mix-up that is about 50-50. So I'm mixing this up in this tray. And this is just a paint roller tray, but the really nice thing about it is that it does come with a lid, and you can keep things, you know, it stops things from drying out. It's a really very cool piece of kit, actually. Got it from a DIY store. Anyway, there's no need to get adhesive all the way up here because we only use this part of it. So I'm going to start work on this now. It's a very quick way of doing things, actually. And so we can just pop that there. Sorry for the camera shake. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to apply the adhesive. Now remember, you've pared this leather very thin, so the adhesive will strike through. So, you know, be aware that if you're using a lighter colour, it may just stain things down slightly. So we've done what, 2/3, 3/4 of the leather there like that, holding it nice and firmly, not letting it move around. That's easy, isn't it? Yes, I hear you say. Then I'm just going to get my core, make sure it's nice and straight as I can get it. I'm just going to lay it into the middle. And then there's one piece of equipment which I've forgotten. Bear with me 1 second. There's always something. Always. Now I can't find it. Aha, I know where it is. There we go. That's what it's like. What it's like working with professionals. So I needed a ruler. I just remembered I needed one. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick this up and I'm just gently going to fold it over. Those of you who had a misspent youth may be able to do that quite easily. So that the core is now in the fold. Okay? I'm just going to get a little bit of a damp sponge just to take off any adhesive. There you go, you see. And a towel. Got all that prepared. That was no problem. And now what I'm going to do using a Teflon folder, of course you could use an ordinary bone folder, whatever you've got, bamboo folder, whatever. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to squeeze the leather into the fold. So I'm just pushing forward and just tightening the leather around it. So we've basically formed, if you like, in profile, the letter P. Now I'm going to get the ruler, just an ordinary metal ruler, and I'm going to put that into position up against the leather core, in this particular case, and then I'm going to push down and forward, and that will just tighten everything up. Can you see how that tightened up? So much so that, look, we've got little spots of leather, of the adhesive coming through those pores. Don't worry about that. That's fine. That's not important. Because all you need is a little bit of a damp cloth just to wipe off, and everything will be beautiful. So now you can see how tight that is. Now the beautiful thing about using leather for the core, you can do a number of things with it. Though I've used a round core, what I could do if I wanted to, getting my ruler, another ruler, 2mm or whatever in place, I can run it over the edge to make it flatter. If I want it even thinner, again, just use a ruler, just push it to there and the ruler will form the guide. And then I can make it sort of oblong in shape. So it's very, very easy. Try not to bruise the leather too much. This will dry back into a nice colour, so we don't worry. So you can see it's changed from being a rare in the round, so it's now square. A nice other thing you can do with leather, of course, with a little bit of variety, is you can actually make it, by holding your folder at an angle, triangular, which is always fun. Nice little bit of a shape happening there. So that's the basics of the M-band made. Now all we have to do is just trim it down, and then it's ready to use on our book. See, look, that's incredible. What I'm going to do is I'm just very simply going to cut this down to 2 centimeters. This is why we always use a relatively largish piece of leather, so that we've got a nice straight cut edge there. Of course, you could pare it down, or you could make this thinner if you've got a smaller book, and then all I have to do is just cut off the end here, measure how much I need, cut from this how much of it is, and just apply it to the text block. How it should look in theory, guess a piece of paper, is that if this is our text block and this is the head or tail, the M-band should sit on top of it like that. So it's like a lowercase p sitting on a line of writing, okay? And I usually apply mine with PVA and then do some magic stuff with it, and everything looks beautiful. Anyway, thank you all very much indeed. I hope you've enjoyed these few minutes. Very simple to do, very little in the way of equipment, and it will make your work slightly different. It also gives you the opportunity to practice leather pairing and, you know, working with thinner pieces of leather. This afternoon I will be demonstrating a form of board attachment that does not use a hammer. Thank you all very much indeed. This is Studio 5 going live at lunchtime. It reminds me of a TV programme. Anyway, let's be safe out there. Thank you all very, very much indeed. And goodbye. See you later.